So, how is Katie going to talk about being a Lutheran, wanting to go to heaven and not go to hell, but is asking for an open relationship? How is Marissa, after 2 years, bringing a man over here to America? He's only been here 45 days, but she wants him to be independent. And Shay sits there, brings this woman in his daughter's life, don't give any background on why she gonna kirk out and act out all the time. And then we got y'all. Let's get into this, shall we? Oh yes, we shall. A sweet old auntie. Thank you, subscribers. Shall we get into it? Oh, yes, we shall. It's time for Auntie Advice. It's time for Auntie Advice. Welcome, everybody, and this is Auntie, and we are here to do our review of 90 Day Fiancé, Season 12, Episode 13, Do As I Say or Do I Go? I know right now 90 Day, what is it? I can't remember what it is. It's on, so thank you so much for spending your time with me on this freaking show. I don't know what's going on with it. It's a lot going on, and we're gonna break it down in only the way that Auntie does it, one couple at a time. So the first couple that we're gonna talk about is Katie and Josh. Let me bring them up to the screen. Just unbelievable. Jesus. So Katie starts off this episode in the kitchen with Josh. She is getting ready to go to her bachelor party, and she tells Josh that she's excited because she finally feels like she's making some progress in this relationship. Since returning from visiting her parents, her religious Lutheran parents, they've been working through some difficult conversations, including her drinking and whether they're gonna raise a future children in the Lutheran faith. Now, wanting to prove that she changed, she told Josh that she has one goal for the night: to have fun with her friends while showing him she can be trusted. I guess that means that she won't be kissing on any men or, drinking very, very heavily. When Katie asks him what grade he'll give her after the party, he keeps his expectations simple. He tells her, look, Katie, don't get intimate with anybody else. Don't black out. Don't throw up, and make good decisions. Now, what grown man is telling his grown fiance this? This should be a no-brainer. On any day of the week, this should be a no-brainer. And she laughs out, right? And she's agreeing that vomit control is probably a reasonable expectation for her. So he asked her, like where she's going. She says she's going to this restaurant that is designed as what, a haunted house, a coffin, something crazy, right? And so we see her little friends. They get to they pick her up in a limousine, and it's decorated like a Halloween scene. It's got skeletons and all of that. They gave her, some type of um thing to put on her, like a sash to put on her. They give her a sash to put on her. They seem like they just as weird as she is, except for one. So they sit down at the table, but before they even sit down at the table, Katie is in the car and asking them to give a story of, her making out with somebody. And I just was like, why are we going here? Like, this girl is weird. What irritates me about Katie the most is that she wants us to believe that there were thousands of hours of footage of her, when she was filming the show. Her and Josh went after this NOCD or OCD type of clinic or some therapist. They went after them. They didn't even have the right company. And she said all this footage was filmed and this wasn't her storyline. Baby, you gave them material. Moreover, we saw you testimony after testimony, green screen after green screen, talking about OCD, and you want us to believe that this is not your storyline. This has been your storyline, and you being a freak. And the thing about it is, the first time somebody says something about it, right? She wants to go out there, her and or Josh, want to go out on TikTok and say it wasn't what it looked like. There was so much more to me. When we see her sitting at a table at her bachelorette party talking about sex, this is the same girl who sat with her parents and hunted for Easter eggs. And his family basically condemned him to hell because he didn't have, a specific religion or church that he was affiliated with. And they just want to make sure their children grow up Lutheran. And I guess, that they have religion and good morals. But where's hers? Let's start with hers. This girl is celebrating not being a hoe anymore. Her words, not mine. But this sits up there and contradicts everything she wants us to believe and everything that she said about herself. She started talking about sex at the table. And she made some very explicit comments about her intimate relationship with Josh before admitting that she's worried about spending the rest of her life with only one partner forever, forever, and forever, and forever. And she tells her friends she considers herself a very sexual person and questions whether monogamy will eventually become boring. She doesn't see herself being in a relationship with George forever and ever and ever and ever. She thinks that she's going to be bored after being with him for 5 years. She talks about what he isn't doing in the bed with her and everything else. And I was like, this is just so inappropriate. One of her friends basically asked what we all was thinking. Does she think that she'll still want to kiss people after she's married to George? And she admits that she's been thinking about that. What? Then she drops above the little girl that was sitting on this little girl that was sitting on the right side of her mouth was hung open the whole entire segment. The one with the little dark hair. Her mouth was hung down to the ground. She tells her friends that she is considering an open marriage. And although she has not had a discussion with Josh about she believes it could either strengthen their relationship or completely destroy it. How could she be sitting at the table, what, a day or two before her wedding? And this is what she's talking about? So her friends start asking more questions. And Katie explains that she likes the idea of having the option in the future rather than feeling trapped by traditional monogamy, which her church believes in. And she says she enjoys the excitement of the chase, but she's the one that we have seen episode after episode doing the chasing. She has been the one that the guys have been rejecting and pushing her head off. The one guy had her head back so far and she was still trying to kiss him. The other friend that was at the party, she was kissing him in the palm of his hand while he was putting space between her mouth and his. And then she was dropped, tore up from the floor up, and then makes no apologies for it whatsoever. She says that she enjoys the excitement of the chase and worries that spending the rest of her life with one person may not satisfy her for long term. So why is George here? Why is George here? When one of her other friends, right, pointed out that an open relationship would also mean that Josh could date other women. Now she wants to hesitate. Now she wants to rethink the idea, admitting that she would be jealous if Josh had somebody. Even though she's asking for this freedom herself, she doesn't want to give the same freedom to Josh. She wants Josh to just be with her. I guess Josh's going to take care of these little Lutheran kids she's about to have. Oh my God. Her friends were so uncomfortable. And, her girlfriend warned that an open relationship often leads to emotional attachment, something that Katie says that she hopes still wouldn't happen in her relationship. But she still insists that she wants the freedom to talk openly about these feelings instead of suppressing them until they become a bigger problem. Katie admits that if George tells her he never wants any type of open relationship, she isn't even sure she can promise she'll be happy with that forever. Let me tell you why this made me pause. Because only hours earlier, she promised George she wanted to prove that she could be trusted. But by the end of the evening, she was telling her friends that lifelong monogamy might not be enough for her and that she intends to bring up the possibility of an open marriage before they even walk down the aisle. This is going to be very interesting because I'm wondering what happens if George says no. She's saying that this is a conversation that every couple needs to have before saying I do. The question isn't whether open relationships work for some people. They absolutely can, right? Because people have open relationships. We just finished a season of This Is Polly. But here's my question. My question is whether both of them generally want the same kind of marriage. And I don't think that Josh left his home to be with her here in the United States for an open marriage. And in my opinion, right now, it doesn't appear that Katie and Josh are on the same page about this relationship. And that difference, I believe, is going to become a far bigger problem after this bachelorette party. I think that she's just absolutely delusional. And she's two different people, and it depends on who the audience is. If y'all have noticed that, it totally depends on who the audience is. Talking about someone else who is absolutely delulu is Mallory. Their relationship at this point is hanging on by a thread because they just had a very emotional conversation about having children. Mallory is saying that because she grew up with, oh, well, she basically grew up without a mother. Um, she said that she was kicked out of the house at the age of 18. She never, her parents never really loved them. She just had a very traumatic relationship. When asked, about it, she said that when Raj asked her, why did she think that she would not be a good mother? And he was talking about the mother. She said, well, I didn't expect my mom not to be a good mother. Just because you don't have a good mother, right? It doesn't mean that you're not capable of loving a child. And I don't know why Mallory is using that. I don't know if this is part of the storyline, if the producers are trying to cause this chaos and dissension in their relationship and put everybody on edge, thinking whether or not they're going to get married or not. Also, I have been seeing some rumors that he is back in Turkey, and they're not together anymore. So, we don't know what to believe because, people will put anything out there for a click and a view. But despite everything that's happened, they agreed to go and visit some wedding sites in Alabama. And so Mallory wants to focus on planning their big day. But it is pretty obvious that Raj is still carrying the weight of their discussion and the possibility that Mallory is not going to have any. And as they tour this beautiful property, Mallory is drawn to this botanical garden, and it has a fountain outside. When they talked about the rental space and all that, when they went to the property, she said that they were not going to be having a lot of guests, and they were going to only have 50 people, about 50 people. And so that's when they showed her the land and how she could, the rest of the property, and how she could, set up a wedding. And so when she saw the fountain, she was interested into the fountain. In the fountain. And so they had told her, they could bring out chairs and everything and make it really beautiful. And she is really enthusiastic about exchanging her vow, and she's excited about it being in shade and all of that, and says that she believes it would make a perfect ceremony site for them. But Ross, however, he is continued to struggle with this. And so Mallory asked him to put their disagreement on hold. She wants him to play the game. She wants him to act as if they had never had a conversation about this. He is toying with just flat out saying what he got to say, right? I don't know if he's scared she's going to send him back or what, but right, he is still wrestling with this in his mind. And although Mallory knows that they're facing this difficult decision, right, she doesn't want any of this to overshadow the ceremony because she believes they got an unresolved issue. But Roz reveals that after the argument, he spoke with his brother. And so we saw him speaking with his brother, and he questioned him and asked him why she waited until he came to America to admit that she wasn't sure about having children. And his family believes that she should have been honest about this much earlier. And I absolutely agree with that. Moreover, his brother told him, why you did, just come home, right? Just come home. And so when he has a conversation with Mallory, we can see that he is, emotionally spent. And I don't know, y'all let me know downtown in the comments, was he crying? It looked like he was crying. And so she agrees that she probably should have brought it up sooner. But she explains that that she needed to have such an important conversation face to face with him. But this is not what she said to her girlfriends when they were at the bridal shop. She admitted to her girlfriends that she did not say anything to him from the fear of losing him or him not coming here to America. So she was being deceitful from the beginning. Now she's, her whole story has changed. But of course, that's what we think, what we expect from Mallory. I must admit that I have been shocked by her behavior because I thought that she was solid. But I don't know. Mallory is just as much of a liar, in my opinion, as all the other cast member. because she went on and she says that she wasn't trying to deceive him. Well, you wouldn't have to say that you were not trying to deceive him if you were not trying to deceive him. And she's still trying to understand her own feelings about making a decision that would affect both of their lives forever. You know, he had already said that he has what, 8 or 9 siblings and 19 nieces and nephews, and he wants the opportunity to show his Turkish mom and dad, who, of course, we all know lost their house and are living in a tent. He wants them to be able to say, "This is Raj, baby," and experience, having children, his children, right? Be their grandkids, and they could show all their love to him, and in family events, be have his own children. So this means a lot to him and to his family. She tells Raj that she loves him deeply and will be perfectly happy spending the rest of her life with just the two of them. But Raj said, mm-mm, mm-mm. He says that for him, becoming a father has always been one of his biggest dreams. And while his love for Mallory hasn't changed, his desire to have children hasn't changed either. And he admits that, to her, that he's struggling to imagine where he has to give up his dream of having children. And so both of them are, talking about what they've done for one another. He is saying that, he packed up his whole entire life to come here. And she's saying, well, I'm the one that did the K1 visa for you to be able to come over here. I've given up my life as well. Although we know that she is talking I bought a prenup of having him sign a prenup. So not only has she hit him with, I don't want to have children, she's also saying, I don't want to share any of my money that I have saved from my car accident. However, have y'all noticed how she drives, how reckless she is, and always blowing a horn and being very impatient? Anyway, I digress. So Mallory, of course, gets real irritated. Now she's angry with Raj and saying that she can't even enjoy planning their wedding because he's so consumed by the uncertainty surrounding their future and them having children. And Raj responds that it's difficult to choose a wedding venue when he doesn't know whether he'll even make it down the altar with her. And so neither of them, wants to bend. Neither of them wants to make a decision. So instead, they leave the venue with that same issue that they love each other, excuse me, y'all, but they may want completely different things. So, in my opinion, this wasn't about either one of them being right or wrong. Mallory has every right to change her mind or question whether motherhood is something that she wants, but Raj also has every right to know that becoming a father is something he isn't willing to sacrifice, and he has a right to that opinion as well. And I'm just like, this is just absolutely crazy. Again, I'm really shocked that she had these secrets and stuff, but that's the 90-day fiance way. Ain't nobody ever straight up with the other one about anything. Y'all, let's talk about Edward and Marissa. Their relationship is off the hook. Edward decides that after the two of them had a conversation, he slept on the sofa and she slept in the bed. And so she gets up in the morning and she's like, before I go to work, we need to have a conversation. He tells her that he agrees. So, no, no. The first thing that they did was the two of them, well, he told her he was coming to New York to come and meet with her. Hold on, y'all. Let me close the door. The dogs just walked out. Hold on. Hold on. So let me start from the beginning with this couple. So the two of them he decides that he's going to come to New York to have a conversation with her. And she like, come on, let's do it. He did not like the conversation that the two of them had before. Am I, did I? Okay. I had to make sure I turn my mic back on. And so Edward is really being in this particular scene, he's really being direct. I don't want to say aggressive, but I do want to say aggressive. He's being direct about how he feels about this. He see that this relationship is unraveling. He said that he is one of those people who needs affection and touch. And he's realizing that he's not getting that from Marissa, and that there's a possibility that he is going to be going back home. And so Marissa finally comes out and says that she's been struggling with this relationship for weeks, and she isn't sure she should even marry Edmund. She has the audacity to tell him that her friends and family have been encouraging her not to move forward unless she is completely certain. She says that while she loves Edward, she doesn't want to go through with a wedding simply because he's on a K1, and returning to his country would be the alternative. And she believes that marriage should be based on confidence, not guilt or pressure. And of course, Edward is crushed. But here's the thing, the only reason why Marissa, your friends, and I'm talking to you, Marissa, the only reason why your family and friends have been encouraging you not to move, because every day the percentage points of you wanting to be with him goes further and further down the toilet. You are the one that are giving them this negative information. You are the one that is causing them, excuse me, y'all. Thank you. You are, okay, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me clear my throat. Okay? Don't know what is going on with that. She has been the one. Okay, so it's something stuck in my throat. But it's like at the back of my throat. So when I try to talk, it's like tickling. Excuse me, y'all. Ooh, okay. Do I need to go blow my nose? Anyway, she's the one that has been feeding them this information and doubt. The reason why her friends and family are not enthusiastic about the wedding and encouraging her is because she has been giving them the material. So when she says that her friends and family have been encouraging her not to move forward, it's because she's saying one week she's 50%, the next week she's 75%. So they're only telling her what she's feeding them. That's it. She's giving them the material. Edward is trying to have some bass in his voice. He reminds Marissa, right, that he spent the last 90 days listening to her concerns, or 45 days listening to trying to prove himself to her. From his perspective, they've already had 2 years to think about the relationship before he ever came to America. And now, with the wedding approaching, he feels like he deserves a clear answer for her. And Marissa says she ain't giving him one. He's threatening to go back home. What I think that he doesn't realize is he was vacation boo. He was, I'm going to the DR and I'm going to be with my vacation boo. And now the reality has worked itself in to his hopes and his dreams. Now, of course, we've seen him on TikTok, and he keeps trying to persuade people to go over to Instagram. I don't know what the man doing. I'm totally not interested in what he has to say at all. I do think he played her. Let me just say that when I watch him on TikTok, I'm like, he all for himself. He all for the Benjamin's baby. He thinks that he has arrived. It is obvious that the two of them got married. So right now we just going through the bull crap. We going through the minutia of it all, because I don't know about you all, but when I watch him, I be like, yeah, he was a selector. And just because they was together for 2 years, like I said, he was vacation boo. Now reality has set in. Marissa is asking for some things possible for him to do right now under a K1 visa, because number one, the two of them have not married. And number two, she's financially helping him. He no longer is gainfully employed. I don't know if he has one of those jobs that he can do via a computer or whatever, remote. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. It seemed like he stays home. And then another question that I have been asking myself is, where are the boys? Where the boys? It looks like to me, based on what we're seeing, that she lives in the city and the boys must live with their dad. Or are they living with Edward? Y'all let me know what y'all think downtown in the chat. But Marissa tells him she can't give him a clear answer. She admits that she's simply not 100% ready to be married to him, and she isn't asking to end the relationship. She's asking him for more time to figure out whether marriage is truly the right decision. And Albert doesn't like that answer, but honey, he got America on his mind. He's already had a bite of the apple. Okay, let's just go ahead on and tell the truth up in Auntie's house. He's already been in New York, the lights, the lights, and the tall building. Like, he had fell in love with New York. So, of course, he is going to fight tooth and nail to stay here in America. Do I believe that he wanted a better life? Absolutely, I do. The argument basically ends with without a resolution. And they both, emotionally tied. And so the next morning, everything gets worse. Because as I said in my thumbnail last week, how is it that week after week she gets worse and worse? Marissa reveals that after the filming ended that night that they were together, that Edward accused her of talking to her ex-boyfriend that she said she stayed in contact with because there were benefits in it. And I was like, what benefits? What benefits did staying in a relationship with this dude after the expiration of their romantic relationship did she have to gain? Like y'all let me know in the chat. She says that relationship ended before she met Edward, and the two of them remained friends with benefits, and that there was nothing romantic happening between the two of them. And then Edward tells Marissa he looked through her phone and saw that she had spoken with her ex. Moments later, he then turns around and admits that wasn't actually true. So, what kind of shenanigans is he doing? Instead, he says he only claimed to have searched for her phone because he wanted to see whether she would admit to talking to him. Like, what? So, when they were at the table, she said, it appears that, you manipulative. And at first I was like, Marissa, come on. But then after that, I was like, yeah, that is. That's very deceitful. She was mad about it. And for once, he made me be on her side. Because to her, right, it feels very manipulative and dishonest. And it was. So now, instead of him building trust, he done created a test to try to catch her in a lie. And so now he makes Marissa right, because now she's in a posture of having to defend herself. And she makes it clear that she doesn't have any interest in being in a relationship where she's constantly being questioned or tested by him. That's so immature and little boys' game. Just say whatever you have to say ever with your whole chest. Say it with your whole chest. Absolutely, this woman has demeaned him and emasculated him, in my opinion. But I mean, it's another way to do it than to be found to be a liar. But he admits that he is fearful of losing her. And, this is causing him to act this way. But I don't know. He'd have went home that weekend. He'd have went home. He apologized, right, for how he handled the situation. But he also explained that her friendship with an ex makes him insecure. Well, it is going to be what it's going to be, because she said it was some benefits to her, honey. And if you got some benefits, I ain't mad at her. So instead of them continuing to argue, she decided to ask for, a paper and an ink pen from the waitress. And they created a list of things that they need before moving forward with the wedding. And so Edward asks for more affection. He asks for better communication and reassurance that Marissa is fully committed to the relationship. And she asks him to work on his jealousy and become more independent instead of relying on her for his entire emotional well-being. And she also wants him to build a life in America that doesn't revolve exclusively around her. And I don't know how she thinks he's going to do that without her help. Anyway, they make one last agreement between the two of them, right? That they'll spend the next 2 weeks working on those issues that they had jotted down on a sheet of paper before making a final decision about whether to get married. And even with that plan in place, Marissa still is worried that she doesn't know if either of them can change enough in such a short period of time, 2 weeks. And but she refuses to marry somebody simply because she feels guilty. She said, "For me, this relationship has officially moved into ultimatum territory, because Marissa is asking for patience while Edward is asking for certainty that I'm going to stay here in these United States." And neither request is reasonable. But with only 2 weeks left before the wedding, right? Someone is going to have to compromise, and it's going to be Edward. It's going to be Edward. No, and she's not moving. And I wouldn't be surprised if she signed a prenup and a whole lot of stuff, because I would have. The way he's moving, yeah. That last conversation, I said, okay, he's saying it with his whole chest. All right. Child, Shay and Annabelle. Let me just be upfront with y'all from the giddy up. I do not like Annabelle. I just don't like Annabelle. I don't know if I've said that 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row, but I absolutely do not like Annabelle. Annabelle slept with this man 30 minutes after she met him. Now remember, Shay met Annabelle on the strength of his friend who was dating or even married to someone in the Philippines, and he introduced them. So she already knew what his pocketbook was looking like in his bank account. Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen? She already knew what it was. So 30 minutes after Shay got there, she gave him a shower. Now, this week, Shay is in the living room with her, and she's teaching him or doing yoga. She just moving her arms. Sure, I didn't see anything that looked like yoga, Pilates. I like what? Annabelle, stop. It's so goofy looking because she's supposed to be this health nut. I think they put her up to it. I think it's heavily produced, but anyway, I digress. So he pulls a muscle in his calf or in his leg, and she said, "You want a shower?" Now, if he pulled a muscle and everything in his leg and needed to sit there, why is she gonna shower him? They want to go, in my opinion, they want to go over the edge so bad at TLC. And y'all know what I mean by that. But Shay has caused a situation between his daughter Allison and Annabelle. And now it's gotten out of control after they went to church together. Because because Annabelle decided to call Shay's daughter, Allison, a spoiled, rotten brat because she was telling her the truth. She did disrespect her church. Every time we saw her, her face was frowned up, jacked up to the side. No, it wasn't the Catholic Philippine church that she was used to going to. But you know what? If you got a problem with it, talk about it in the car. You don't sit up there in front of her, her fellow brothers and sisters in Christ and embarrass her. And daggone well they recognized her. Being in the audience, Shay has his wife here from, his fiance here from. Y'all know they did it on the church announcements. Y'all know they did it on the church announcements. The church recognized she was there. Come on, y'all. While after the two of them was drinking a little healthy drink or whatever, Shay started telling Annabelle why Allison reacted so strongly to her calling her a sport. And she been digging for gold and digging for business and taking the child. Anyway, Shay admitted, right, that Allison can be a problem. But he also reminded her that both of his daughters, have been through some tremendous trauma. Years ago, Annabelle, the sister, I can't remember her name, and Allison lost their mother. And their mother, according to him, had struggled with addiction and some mental health issues. And so Shay believed that those experiences still affect how she handles relationships to this day. I think it was one thing for him to be dating her by phone for 5 years. It's another thing to bring the woman in the house. And of course, he's making all these arrangements, not only with Allison and the way he handles her, right? But also the way that he's been handling his ex wives. He told Annabelle that a lot of people think that he babies Allison, but from his perspective, he's, just trying to make up for everything she lost, including her mother. And he also believes that Allison isn't just afraid of accepting a new stepmother, but she is also afraid of losing what's left of her relationship with her dad. Of course, we all know that, she has a home that's on the same land with her father that he's paying for. He's helping to, help her, right? And so he's given some insight. But what he should have done, right, being a concerned dad, he should have handled that with Annabelle before she got here so that she could handle her differently. Because I can say that this woman has been frowning her face. She has been nasty with her. She's been very slick and manipulative, in my opinion. Y'all may not agree down in town in the comment section because I know a lot of people like Annabelle, but I see Annabelle for her works. So Annabelle sat there and listened and admitted that she hadn't fully understood everything Allison experienced. But she said that she could now understand why Allison might be protective of her father and acknowledged that, basically building a relationship with the family is just as important as marrying Shay. And so Annabelle agreed to reach out and try to repair the relationship. But Shay had told her, you going to get your dress and stuff, um, try on your dress and buy a veil. Why don't you invite Allison to go with her? And honey, her whole face expression and her reaction said exactly how she feels. She does not want a relationship with Allison. So, of course, him being as messy as he is, because he hasn't handled things correctly himself, he arranges for Allison to spend time with her while she's, going out shopping for the wedding accessory. So the next thing you know, we see them in the car. But when he went to go and pick up Allison from her little trailer in the back, why did Annabelle get out the car? I could not understand that. I'm like, why are you walking up on the girl house? You know that things are tense between the two of them. Why couldn't you just sit in the car? I didn't even see her speak to the girl. I like, I ain't got this to do. I don't have this to do. Allison admitted that she was still hurt by what happened downtown to the church. And she felt that Annabelle had been disrespectful by falling asleep while the pastor was preaching. But the thing about it was when they were in the car, Shay was the one that was talking. And then when his daughter was coming back at him with everything that she had, and he said, "Well, why don't you talk to her?" She said, "Well, she said when I try to talk to her, she don't talk. And when she does talk, she being a bitch." And honey, next thing you know, you see Miss Annabelle, who's a grown up in the room, say F her. Lord forgive me for laughing. She said, "Fuck her." And then repeated it to make sure that you heard her sentiments. Annabelle said, "I can't believe that girl called me." I said, "I can." You can't believe she called you that? I can. So they get into the shop because Annabelle she said that this is her and Shay's second wedding. And so she didn't see the need to spend a whole lot of money on the dress. And so she ordered a $200 dress. And now and the dress came. And now she wants to, find the accessories, the veil and everything to go with it. And so they go into, the bridal shop and everything. He drops them off to make them, try to work this situation out. And he leaves. And so they go in and she come out with the dress on. And I was like, mhm. I said, if that dress ain't looking like Little House on the Prairie, that's the ugliest wedding dress I have ever seen on this show. That she needed to go to Kleinfeld's. That dress was hideous. It had a built-in shawl on that dress was hideous. So of course Allison was sitting there like, as I would have. Because if you ain't got enough, my mama always told me, if you ain't got nothing good to say, don't say nothing at all. Girl, when I tell you that Allison was looking like me, your Lord forgive me. I said, that's the head he gets. So Allison is sitting there chilling. They bring out a veil. That first one was too sparkly. The second one was just right. It just had, was a plain veil with lace on the end. And the girl kept looking. The girl kept looking at Allison like, oh, so let me go and get some. Let me. It's like, what the frick is going on? Now they told me that TLC was going to be in here filming, but they didn't tell me that these two people don't get along. I don't know. The girl didn't know what to do. Bless her little heart. So Annabelle, trying to break the ice, said, "I understand that you don't have your mother," and she believes that hearing um Allison's story, that she did need to give her a little grace. And so she ended up sharing um that she was married, and her marriage ended after her husband cheated on her while she was working overseas in Dubai to support their future. She said she was sending money back, and everything, and she had been over there for 7 years. And she said that she had found out while in Dubai that he was with another woman and had had a child from that relationship. And she talked about, the betrayal devastated her and left her believing she might not ever find love again. And you could tell that hearing her story, right, that Allison kind of softened up. And so basically, for the first time, Allison in kind opened up about her own pain, and she explained, how deeply losing her mother affected her. And she admitted that watching her father move on made her feel like she was losing not only her mother, but him too. And she said that there is no replacing her mother, but she misses having somebody that she can call for advice, comfort her, or simply talk to her after a difficult day with her kids. Basically, looking for a babysitter. And you can see the walls come down um, in Annabelle, and you can see that Allison walls came down. And so Annabelle told Allison she would never try to replace her mother, but if Allison ever needed somebody to cry with or lean on, or somebody to simply listen, help her with the kids, she'd be there for her. And that that really helped their relationship. So by the end of the visit, the tension that had been in the room during this whole relationship softened into basically mutual understanding. And Allison said at the end, she said, "We're going to change my name from spoiled brat to just brat." And I was like, you know what? That's good. And it was a heartfelt moment. I'm hoping that they can keep the momentum. But what I have been wondering is, where in the hell is the other sister? I guess the other sister decided that she just won't go film, because we've seen nothing from the other sister. We saw her one time, and that was, when they were in the closet prior to Annabelle getting there. So what's going on with the other sister? Things that make you go, If any of y'all know, let me know downtown in the comment section so we can discuss it, okay? Because I don't know where the other sister has gone to. But anyway, let's continue with our last one. Asia and Maxwell. Asia and Maxwell open up their segment downtown toward the beach. They showing all the beautiful parts of Nigeria because they could not film at Maxwell's parents' home or his home because they live in a red zone. So everything that they're doing is in the green zone of Nigeria. For me, that would be an issue because I would want to be driving to that red zone to see how this mofo live every day. This little used car salesman. And they all sitting there discussing what the wedding is going to look like. So Rod asks whether or not Asian could have a typical Igbo wedding. And the family said, no, she cannot. Maxwell family explained that because Asia is not Nigerian or Igbo, she cannot have an authentic traditional Igbo marriage ceremony. They said, but what they gonna do for her is they gonna put her in some traditional clothing, have music, dances, and Nigerian food, and then they gonna, give her some money. They said that they gonna put her in their traditional attire, and that the people at the wedding would shower her with money during the celebration. And of course, Asia gives into that and says that sounds like being a stripper. And then she was like, if they gonna make it rain, she ready for that. Well, y'all know I had to go look that up, right? Y'all know I had to go look that up, right? They see that they're going to give a white wedding. When they asked what is a white wedding, they said a white wedding is basically American weddings. It's called a white wedding. So y'all know I had to go look it up, right? My question was, can an American have an Igbo marriage without being Igbo or Igbo? And they said, absolutely, yes, they can. They said the family got to agree to allowing her to play and to hold such a significant role because they got to participate in it. They said you got to convert to their religion, but they said that they just as religious as she is. And that many couples have two ceremonies. They have the Igbo or Ibu traditional marriage, and they also have a civil marriage that is recognized by both their government and the Christian church. They say the only thing that it is the traditional introduction of both families, the bride price negotiations, presentation of gifts, the bride identifying her groom before the gathered families, traditional time, music, dancing, and celebration. So here's what's happening. Why ain't he paying the bride price? Don't Africans have to pay a bride price? Why isn't his family giving her family something for a dowry? Because this is what you call a white wedding. Hold on, let me look that up. What is a white wedding? Among many Igbo people, A white wedding refers to the Western style Christian wedding ceremony, not to the race of the bride or the groom. So it said the two families formally meet and begin marriage discussions. This is customary Ibu ceremony. The bride wears traditional attire. The white wedding, this is the Christian church wedding. The bride usually wears a white wedding gown. The groom wears a tuxedo or suit. Vows are exchanged before a minister or priest, and rings are exchanged, much like Western weddings. So they have them there. The term white wedding comes from the bride's white wedding dress. And the Western Christian tradition, it does not mean the couple is white. Many Igbo Christians choose to have both of them, but they not giving it to her because guess what they didn't do? Sit down and do negotiations. Where's the dowry? Didn't in his family responsible for paying a dowry for the bride? They gave her family There is a a D McFarlane. I already broke that down. I did the research on there. There is a red zone. The red zone, as I explained before in a previous email, in a previous video, is a section that is in Africa, in certain places of African, where it is unsafe for filming, for regular Joe Blows to be there. It's unsafe. Let me pull that up again, y'all. Just. Which is why they have been filming in an Airbnb. I gave that before, so let me do it again. The term red zone in Africa does not refer to one specific place. It usually means an area considered high risk because of conflict, terrorism, violent crime, disease outbreaks, and or other serious safety concerns. Depending on the context, red zone can mean different things. Travel advisory, conflict area, disease outbreaks, and military or humanitarian operations. TV shows consider this red zone. They don't film in them, which is why they are in an Airbnb. Allegedly. They said that they were in an Airbnb for one reason, but then somebody mentioned that he was in the red zone. So I looked it up. They do not get the same insurance. TLC can't insure if they go into the red zone and film. So this is why we're seeing them near beaches and in a big Airbnb. Because they can't even film at this, allegedly. Okay. And when we listen to Rod is letting out the business. Rod is letting out the business that he ain't got nothing. Then the whole conversation shifts from the money, and they're gonna put her in their attire, but she can't have this wedding because she ain't one of them. It now shifts to alcohol. Maxwell family tells them that although many Nigerian weddings do serve alcohol, their family is Christian and they plan to have a dry wedding. And Asia immediately jokes that she may have to bring her own bottle. Rod, because he can't endure an alcohol-free reception. He said he gonna be drunk as a skunk if she marry him. Later on, Maxwell pulls Rod to the side, and Ron is hoping, and Maxwell is hoping to gain his trust and blow smoke up his butt. But the god brother is skeptical of Maxwell's intentions. And he points out that online Americans are targeted by Nigerians. And Maxwell acknowledges and admits that scams exist, that out of 10, if you get 10 of them in a crowd, at least 4 of them are scamming. And he said he knows people that are involved in them, but insists that he has always earned an honest living, selling cars, and has no interest in taking advantage of Asia. But guess what? He ain't convinced in that. And he told Maxwell that moving to the United States would be like him starting his life over as a newborn. Because he ain't established. He doesn't have an established career or any financial stability. And he questions whether Asia should be marrying someone based on potential instead of proven success at her age. This girl is 38 years old and she marrying a man that got potential. Who the does that? But Maxwell said that she gonna marry potential and Rod ain't got nothing to do. I said, there you go right there. There you go right there. He said, I just want an opportunity. I know y'all heard it. I know y'all heard Maxwell say, all I need is a month opportunity. But I thought that he made a very sassafras comment about Americans not working as hard as Nigerians because they do everything by hand. I'd rather work smart than hard any day of the week. Do you think that Americans should still be using typewriters? We're in year 2026. He said that he fixes cars manually with his hand. He buys and sells. So Rod is already saying this mofo is a used car salesman. They'll try to sell you anything, and y'all know they do, allegedly, supposedly. They try to sell you a car. There have been documentaries on used car dealerships who roll back the odometer, where these cars have been that have well over 100,000 miles. They roll them back to 0 or 10, like they new cars. It's buyer beware when you buying something new. And this is all he does is flip cars. So Rob was like, I know you a slickster. I know you slick out the mouth. But as Maxwell said, he just need an opportunity and you ain't got to do with it. She gonna marry that opportunity. Because they didn't already convince Asia. And because Asia thinks she knows it all and that God ordained this, she's going to make it happen because she don't want to be a lie. So whatever she get, she get. It's obvious her family is presenting as something that they're not. And I'm not saying that there's not wealth in Nigeria. I'm saying Maxwell ain't got no wealth. Maxwell gets a little irritated and tries to tell him that Asia is an intelligent woman who chose him because she sees character and believes in his future. He says all he needs is an opportunity to prove himself and promises Ron that he will take care of his god sister. Although Maxwell remains calm throughout the conversation, it's clear that Ron still has some serious doubts and that he pulling some of the fake out of him. Because he irritated, said that the man was disrespectful. Can you say nothing disrespectful? You had told him the first time you met him that you could not wait to spend time with him to show him who you were. And then you give him a couple of spills about what you do, and you tell him that this is your way of telling him who you are. This is by your interpretation. Let's go around the village and find out who you and your family are. What happened to the other girlfriend that was dating Maxwell's friend? He happens to have a woman who wants to be right, and she gonna be right. And we'll see in about 3 years, won't we? Everything he has said that I see on his TikTok is he makes defamatory, disrespectful comments about Americans, especially American women. That's my opinion. Ron basically asked him, "Can you afford to do anything?" Ron ain't stupid. Ron wasn't buying nothing he was selling, not even a car, not even a tire. And they want 4 kids out of her. Rob basically sees Maxwell as somebody who's full of promises and hope, but short of proof. And Maxwell is frustrated as I don't know what, but he is confident that this girl gonna marry him, and she is. Because the issue isn't cultural differences. It's earning the trust of Asia's family, who act like they ain't have no idea why they was going to Africa and that they didn't arrange all of this with TLC. And I'm gonna tell you right now, and I think I said it before, I'm gonna be the first one laughing at Asia. Because in next week's episode, Asia talks about every month she loses eggs. And Ron asks her, so that's why you trying to marry him because you want to get pregnant. She talks about her fertility. And that's why she wants to marry this man. And she did not nary prenup that we know of. She hasn't done anything to protect herself. And from my understanding, y'all let me know downtown in the chat, it is no longer that you're responsible for them for 10 years. You're responsible for them now for life. And I'm telling you, if y'all go and look at his TikToks, in my humble opinion, he has nothing but negative things to say about American women. Even when she joked with him, it was like, "You're going to be carrying my pocketbook." He was like, "Why?" She said, "Because you got to carry it while I'm shopping." Let's see how he treats her. Because she want to be right. Anyway, that is the end of my review. Thank you all so much for being here. See, we went over an hour, so I apologize. But I'm hoping that y'all had a good time over here. Thank you to everybody all of the 723 people who are here. I appreciate y'all. Make sure that y'all like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so that every time I go live, you go live with me. How do you know that you're subscribed? That bell gonna change a different color, and then you're gonna be live with me. Also, if you want to join the membership where we have discussions and we talk about things, behind the wall. So thank you all so much for being here. Let me make sure before I go out of here, I shout out Yazelle, my sugar 48. Okay. Of course, my sugar. Who else is in here? Of course, R.A. Della, our moderator extraordinaire, is here. Any more members? Let me see. Girl, what's the tea? Hey, boo. Hey, sweetie pie. Who else is in here? I don't see anybody else because it's not letting me go back any further. Oh, Nathan is here. Hi, Nathan. JW1063 is here. Hey, boo. There go Nathan. So thank you all so much for being here. And until we meet again, y'all be safe out there in those streets and in the water. And let me think we know what you think downtown in the comment section. Bye, y'all.